This is just a normal piece of black poster board, and I'm going to use this for the road. So what I'm going to do to start out is I'm going to have two sections of road, one going to the bridge and one leading away from the other side of the bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some roads. So what I'll do is, you could use cardboard, but I like to just use poster board. It's real easy. So what I'll do is I'll just put my yardstick down, and I'm going to measure just across the poster board. And I'm going to do it twice because I want the road to be big. I'm just using my T-square. So now I'm going to do the other part of the road. Now, these are definitely not modern times, so the roads aren't straight like this. I'm just using this to get my reference. Now, I'm using pencil. You probably can't see it very well on the video, but I use pencil because it's much easier to see on the black poster board. So what I've got is I've got my two roads. So I'm going to draw the edge, but I'm going to do it a bit irregular. So when I cut it out, it doesn't just look like a straight line. Now I'll do this one. So now what I'll do is I'll cut these out, and then I'm going to paint them. Since the roads were so hard to see while I was drawing on the poster board, since it's dark, I wanted to show you what they look like. So I just did the edges a little bit irregular to make it look like a dirt road. Now, I used black poster board instead of white because it's already black, so I don't have to base paint it black, so it's all ready to go. Now what I'm going to use on these is a texture paint. It's a brown texture paint instead of the gray stone colored texture paint, and that'll just make it look like a dirt road. So I will spray that on and I'll show you what that looks like. Here I've got my section of road, and I've sprayed it with the brown texture paint. I've done a little bit of black streaking on it. I want to make it look like it's being used. So, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a cinnamon paint, and I'm going to add some streaks like wagon wheel ruts and things. So I'm going to thin the paint fairly well, and I'll just kind of drag . Feel it's too light, you can always add some more paint. So that kind of gives the road a little interest. And remember, the paint always looks a little drier. I'm going to paint a little more on the edge. The paint always looks a little brighter when you first paint it on. It will darken up a bit. So keep that in mind when you paint. If you're worried about it being too bright, you can always do a test, and then when it dries, you can see that if it's the the degree of color you want. So there we go. Paint that, and I'll do the other road piece, and then we'll move on from here. Here's something else I was going to use in this scenario, and I wanted to show it to you before you saw it and were wondering what was going on. This is very similar to the tree bases I have done. It's that same type of wood, just cut in a random oval shape. Now you'll see that I don't have trees on this. I've got smaller plants. These are basically just aquarium type plants. That what I've done is I have drilled through the bottom and stuck the plants through. And then I glued them in with some epoxy glue, the kind you mix together. It's very strong. So I stuck them through, and if it was When I stuck them through the hole, I drilled a hole through the wood, and when I stuck them through, I used the epoxy glue. And if there was any sticking through the bottom, I just snipped it off with some scissors. So basically, I just did this, a very similar technique to make this as I did for the trees. I just, instead of gluing the tree bases on, I drilled through the base and then stuck the plants through. Now, one thing about this is, it's not too bad that they are permanently on here because they're flexible. So I don't have to worry about them breaking off, and it's not as big of a storage issue because they're not as tall. So I just wanted to show you that before we moved on, before you saw it in the final scenario and we're like, where'd that come from? I had one more thing too. I also had some individual plants. So here's an individual plant. I'll bring that a little closer so you can see it. So basically, it's the same type of plants I've used on the base, but what I did was I used some just air dry clay and molded it into the cone shape and stuck the plant in there. So, and then I sprayed a little bit of the dirt texture paint around the base. If a little bit gets on the plant, that's okay, it just adds to it. But it's pretty easy just to spray that on the base, even with the plant stuck in it. So you can see that's, you'll see these in the scenario too. I'll put a few of these on the rocks crossing the gorge. So I wanted to let you know how I made those, and now we'll move on.